everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. Now, I know a couple of you have asked me, hey, why don't you talk a little bit about Pocket Liner still ranting and going off on Junkie Ward about BCAAs and cancer and all that. And you know what, guys? I'll be more than happy to help cultivate that hatred between these two. Later on, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day we'll talk about it. But today, some people, more than one person, has actually linked me in the comments some stuff about Musclehead, and I can't believe I missed it last month. It's still current because I mean it's less than a month old, but we're getting close. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And I'll just flip in a screenshot here. Just so you guys get an idea of what's going on. But yeah, Tyler Bauman, Musclehead320, who back last year I'd said he had pled guilty in federal court, has been sentenced to 10 years. 10 years! Man, I mean, this kind of comes back to the point, man. Fitness YouTubers are getting all caught up in these anabolic distribution rings. This is where we got to be honest, guys. This is one reason, obviously, health concerns being one of them, but one of the other reasons you don't see me messing around with a bunch of gear these days. We're in a different world in America. Different administration, drug laws are being tightened down on. We're in a situation to where a lot of stuff with drug distribution, a lot of possession, things like that, are becoming riskier. They're becoming riskier, guys. And so the thing I would tell a lot of you out there, those days of thinking you're going to be distributing gear and other stuff, and for a long time people weren't really touched for this to the degree that they are today. We're in a world now to where there's a much higher chance of getting caught for that. If you go break that law, particularly if you're really stupid about it and open about it like some of these people were, government's cracking down on it harder here in America. I mean, we just saw it with the WFN fiasco, which again was all done publicly, all these YouTubers endorsing it. And it kind of goes back to another point. That's one reason I look at that. You see guys like Pocket Liner, you see Rashid, and then you see the guy Richard Rodriguez who got popped for all of it, and he is in prison right now, saying they did snitch. And that makes sense because they were publicly involved in the operation. You guys need to keep that in mind. They publicly endorsed illegal activity on their YouTube channels with their real names, real faces advertised for this illegal operation. The fact that they didn't get their YouTube channels shut down is a miracle. It's a miracle because look what just happened with, what's his name? Kenny KO. Right, he just got shut down for SARMs, which don't quite hold the level of legal status this stuff does. Right, they don't hold that same legal status, but YouTube just shut him down over it. But they might, coming up when Orrin Hatch passes this next law, they might get put in that same category. There's a real possibility of it. It looks like it's probably going to pass. They've just been changed by the FDA. Now, these guys publicly advertised for this company that was selling Tren. I mean, there is no prescription for Trenbolone in the United States. It never has been. It is only allowed in cattle, not in humans. So it's been, they've got away with all that, and then they got out of going to jail. I mean, they got lucky with the YouTube thing. YouTube's policies are changing more on that. But the fact that they didn't go to jail, again, the guy who's sitting in jail is calling them snitches. They were publicly involved. They received money, drugs, everything else to advertise for it. Admittedly, it's all come out. They know it's true. They've more or less admitted it. And he had evidence. So they're in the middle of that, and they haven't done a single day. They haven't done a single day. Again, very real possibility. I'm inclined to believe the guy. But they snitched. I mean, it makes sense. I'm not saying it's 100% fact, but it's the most likely scenario, isn't it? It makes the most sense. So you've got that whole situation, and I mean, that was a big deal. And you got this Musclehead thing. The guy was advertising on social media. He was laundering money, and where he really got in trouble, it wasn't even just the distribution. I mean, here's where he really, really messed up. They got him for counterfeiting because they used knockoff labels and bought labels from a legitimate pharmaceutical company abroad, and they slapped it on their bottles of homebrew gear. Now, That's funny because that's really what got him the worst sentence was for counterfeiting. See, that's the other thing, guys. You're messing with big pharma's money. At that point, it's not just about distribution. You're messing with big pharma's money at that point. You know the government's going to come down hard on you. He got 10 years. He got 10 years. He's probably not going to get parole because that's how the federal pen works. And in my experience, I have an aunt. One of my dad's got one of 7 kids. One of my aunts allegedly robbed a bank here in Texas. She got caught. She got 10 years for it. And she did, I believe, 9.5 of those 10. She got 6 months shaved off her sentence for like good behavior. 6 months off a 10-year sentence. So she did 9.5 years for that. True story right there. So yeah, I mean, he's probably going to do 9-10 years with that 10-year sentence over this. And the thing is, it was just so ridiculous because, I mean, he knocked off the counterfeit stuff, and that was the funniest thing. When I found out who the lab was later, I had to laugh so hard because this one douchebag I knew, like one of Brittany's friend's boyfriend, had this stuff, and he was trying to show it to me of how amazing it was, and he wasn't making any gains. I mean, he was on a pretty hefty amount, close to a gram. Wasn't making gains, and he's saying, but look at this, you know it's because look at the quality of the label. And, he was penning it. He must have been extremely underdosed. Like, this stuff probably really would qualify as counterfeit that they were making because he wasn't really making gains like I would expect off of it. Like, not even close. If he was making any gains at all, he might have gained a pound of muscle. Very, very minimal, if any obvious change. So, he was bragging about the labels. Well, that's because they used labels that were stolen from a legitimate pharmaceutical company. So they had these really good labels. They made their bathtub way underdosed, possibly some of it even fake gear. Slapped the labels on it, and maybe that's why they got them for counterfeiting too, is not just taking for big pharma. Maybe a bunch of bottles they found didn't have anything in them. So they were labeled as a drug, but with no actual drug in them. So it's been counterfeiting at that point, and he still got 10 years. And there's all the money laundering. They had made a few $100,000 apparently. They laundered it through a local tanning company that they did. I mean, these guys weren't the brightest in the world. Again, advertising it on social media. There used to be a time when people could get away with that. That's not happening anymore. And again, what are we seeing, man? We're seeing all these high-profile figures who've been involved in a lot of this stuff are shrinking. Cali Muscle shrinking, Microsheets shrinking, Lobliners shrinking. A lot of YouTubers are shrinking down. And here's what a lot of that comes down to. Some of their training protocols aren't going to be the best for people not on gear. It's going to be hard to retain the muscle. What do I tell you guys all the time? If you're going to come off, because a lot of you are looking at this going, man, I really don't want to be on forever, but I don't want to lose all my gains. Learning how to train correctly. You can come off. You can come clean, guys. You can come clean, and you can keep most of your gains. All right, you can do that, but you have to learn how to train. And that means not doing this silly bodybuilder fluff and pump. Is worrying about the pump, all right? Pump works real good for people who are on stuff. You're going to come off. You need to be worried about actual muscle fiber stimulation. You need to be worried about serious myofibrillar hypertrophy, right? And you get that through tension, through big lifts, through strength. You want to keep your muscle or not. You're not going to keep that inflated look. You're not going to keep that muscle fullness. But as far as keeping the actual muscle fibers, the muscle mass, it can be done, guys. It can be done. So that's kind of a side note to all this. But you don't want to deflate. But look how many guys are losing their gains out there. And I think a lot of it has to do with the legal climate. A lot of these YouTubers are high-profile figures. They know they're being watched more and more because of the associations. They know they're being watched. They know they're being watched. And a lot of guys are getting popped for all this. So I think you're going to see more of this. You're going to see guys shrinking. Now, what they're all claiming, it's because Rich Piana died and we've all decided to change our team. No, you guys didn't. No, you guys didn't. You guys knew abuse would kill people eventually. It's not anything new. It's not like other guys haven't died before. No one cares about Rich Piana. Seriously, they really don't. That's a cop-out because they know they're all scared of getting popped these days. So a lot of guys are scaling back on their use because they don't want to get caught with distribution amounts for possession. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them, guys, because we're getting serious with that stuff now. It's not a game anymore. You can't have those sort of quantities of these illegal substances on hand anymore. The risk is just too high for most guys. And I don't know, we'll see what it does to the bodybuilding world. Hell, we'll see what it does to the powerlifting world for that matter. I don't know, we'll watch and see. But it's a different world, guys. It's a different world than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Things have changed. And the risks are just getting too high. Right or wrong, whether you think they should be legalized or not, in this current legal climate, the risks are just too high. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.